Recorded at Equip HNA 2024 in Louisville, Kentucky. Here's your host, SiteOne trainer, Shawn Sandink.
Here at the Equip Expo with Chris Lemcke of Weedman. Welcome, Chris.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we appreciate you taking the time here, Chris. I'm thinking back to your grade 5. You're sitting in class, you're looking at the clock, and you were going, you know what? I want a war against weeds. I want a yard harder. How can I make this happen? Tell me, was Weedman and being in the green industry, was that something you were thinking of right from a young boy?
No, definitely not. I was quite occupied working with my dad at a very young age. He was a stonemason by trade.
Okay.
So as young as I can remember, I was going to help him work in the summertime, hanging out with him, going to places. But basically from grade 7 on, I was out mixing mortar, carrying blocks, and helping him build homes. So stonemason by trade, but we did all kinds of things. We did, he also did log homes, which is a specialty.
Okay.
So he was a pretty gifted builder. And yeah, so I did that pretty much all the way in through to university. And luckily, you know, I was going to be a police officer. It's big in my family, you know, big guy, 6'7". So
right.
My grandfather was MP or like in military police. My great grandfather was police chief. So it's in our family. So anyways, but I ended up meeting my wife, who her dad had started a Weedman in Hull, Quebec, and
okay,
we kind of got approached by him saying he was looking to buy some other franchises at the time. Weedman been around for 25 years, and so, you know, I'm used to seeing my parents work hard. My mom was a real estate agent, and you know, obviously my dad being a contractor and that. So I've seen the advantages of owning your own business as well as the disadvantages. But yeah, so we ended up, luckily enough, getting involved and starting our own franchise in Ottawa.
Okay. So from stonemason,
Yep.
I guess we'll call it apprentice,
Pretty much. Well,
through to did you go to police school or?
I took criminology in university.
Okay.
Mainly I went there to play basketball,
right,
and get away from my dad. And
okay, fair.
and I went into working in some other construction stuff, like in the Ottawa area for the summer, as opposed to going home. So me and my dad had enough of working together. At least I had enough of working with him. So I was working in a couple, paving crews and things like that. So I always worked outside. I always worked with my hands. I was not much like I used to drive my mom nuts in church too as well. I couldn't sit still for 5 seconds. Just like,
sure.
So yeah, when you can harness that energy and know that if you work hard, like, you know, that's the one thing I always watch my parents, like, you know, dedicate to working always hard. You know, my dad instilled a lot of that into me, which is, you know, put your head down, you go, and good things will happen. So, you know, we just took, you know, luckily, I would say my wife's the brains, I'm the brawn, and she's the smartest person I know, her and her dad. So we, you know, I looked at that and went, you know, obviously, you know, when we came to the business side of stuff, like my wife is super brilliant. She's our CEO. And just what we do and how we create the culture of Weedman, you know, she sets that tone, and, you know, we worked all through our businesses, and, you know, it was pretty good because she was on the bin side and sales, and I did the technical, which I enjoy.
Right.
And also the sales as well, which I enjoy a lot too. So it was a perfect kind of match. And so it's been great.
So you went from working for your father-in-law in Quebec up to owning your own franchise in Ottawa.
Yep.
And then what do you do now with Weed?
So I'm the technical director for Weedman.
What is that?
So basically I'm in charge of all the vendors and products and things like that. So for Weedman specifically, we have a very, you know, specific, you know, programs that we want. There's some other franchises out there that, you know, they allow it to the franchisee to decide what they can use. And but we want a standardized program, and we want to have, you know, specifics of what our franchisees are going to be using. So we have specific lists of products and things like that. And then we also want to, you know, like there's small, you know, whether they're co-ops or they're small vendors, you know, throughout all of the U.S. and Canada. They can go to a local guy or whatever. But then how do you do that? How do you garner any that ability to use your bulk buying, and negotiate deals and things like that. So, we have a very small list of approved suppliers that they have to buy through. That's part of the agreement. When they sign a franchise, they have to buy through suppliers that we agree to, and also buy the products that especially for us, it's our fertilizer, right? And you guys make, obviously a lot of our fertilizer for us, and it's a standard that we have a very strict, which is we're not going to cheapen the product if, let's say prices get expensive or like that.
Right.
We know that cost of an acquisition of a customer. It's better retain customers than go out and get new ones, because it's expensive to go get new ones. So we always want our lawns looking great, and that's what our standard is that slow release kind of fertilizer, and then we set very specific standards to that. So we want our franchisees to follow that.
Right.
And in the end, they're successful, and we have high renewal rates because we put a lot of effort into making sure that our standard programs are, going to be good and retain those customers.
So you want a very uniform approach. So no matter where I am, which Weedman franchise, if I moved to a different city, but I still just sign right back up with Weedman for my services, I'm going to get that same uniform high standard of approach.
That's right. Yeah.
Plus, you're leveraging your dollars on your purchasing
Exactly
by limiting the
exactly that, and we can take our now national buying power and leverage that to get us better pricing versus if someone was going out individually and trying to find that themselves. So
now, do you ever get any pushback where somebody's like, "But my brother sells this," or my next door neighbor has?
We're pretty good. We've got really good buy-in from our franchisees. I mean, they see the success, right? They see how other people and what we've done in the past, right? We came from Canada. We started small. We brought in people who are strategic, like sub-franchisers in certain areas. And we've grown it, and if you're coming into the system, like we've had so much success, and so when people see this, if they go outside the system, we know pretty quickly. And I get all the data. That's part of my job, is pulling all the data from our franchisees. But most of our guys are really good. They understand how important it is to stay within the program and to offer these high quality, services. Because again, at the end of the day, it's about renewals. And if you don't have that, the cost of acquisition or customers is really expensive. It's easier to keep them than to try and go find new ones.
So what would you say would be some of the changes that you're seeing in our industry or even within your own role?
Well, the last 4 to 5 years has been challenging, to say the least. Obviously, COVID was a big, wrench, or kind of put pricing into a different atmosphere, supply chain issues. We were pretty lucky. Even before COVID hit, and then of course the Ukraine war, and then you saw urea go through the roof. I was having meetings
So hold on, let me back you up there.
Ahead of that.
Let's for those of us that might not know why urea is a factor in this. Maybe we're listening to this and we're not familiar with the whole fertilizer world. Why do I care about the price of urea?
Well, it is a major input, obviously, to our program and for fertilizer and keeping the lawns healthy. And so it's probably our biggest cost. Chemical costs are certainly part of it, but our fertilizer costs are let's say maybe 50-60%. So it's a major input for our programs. And when urea starts to go high, that changes your program significantly, or the price of a program significantly, because it is a big input. So
now, were you able to provide cost certainty for your customers while the price of your costs of your goods is going up? But if they already signed on to a renewal for a certain price, I know that there's some folks that I dealt with even as a personal level at home where they said, "Oh, Shawn, we promised that we could build your gazebo for this much money, but the wood price is too high. I'm sorry." And I'm like, "But we agreed on this." But they would in have been losing money if they would have kept to that. Did you notice any of that in your business?
We kept pricing. What we did though over the last, so you've got product costs, but you also have employment costs, right? So that rose quite significantly the last couple of years. So over the last 4 years, we've been doing incremental increases to the customer. We're seeing some deflation now in some of the products. Obviously, they've come back down. Our labor costs haven't come down, that's for sure. That stayed the same, and so it is more expensive than it was 4 to 5 years ago. But everything is gas is obviously expensive. There's all these things. So and so we've raised prices, but we're at a point that how far can you raise it before people start to balk, right? There's a lot of concern about that. So, we try to be strategic, and we're very involved with our franchisees setting budgets and looking at where they're at with their direct material costs and, employment costs, and saying, okay, here's your program price. Okay, we think you should be up 10% from that, and we don't want to be the cheapest in the marketplace because we feel we offer premium service. We don't necessarily want to be so at a price that doesn't make sense. Obviously, we have to still compete, but we feel our service is an A+ service, so people are willing to spend that, and our renewal rates have been fantastic. Like, they keep continuing to go up. Obviously, we're not seeing the COVID years where we were going crazy. Like, we had incredible growth for a number of years, but back to the nitrogen costs and things like that, like as far as urea goes, it was like I was getting pricing and costing like every week.
Sure.
And I was having to put that out to the franchisees because it was just all over the place. But last, this year specifically is probably, I'd say, almost back to normal.
Okay.
But
back to normal means
like
the supply chain.
Well, yeah, supply chain and steady pricing, not changing every month, type of thing. So you could, say, here's your price this quarter, here's your price second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, as opposed to here's your price this week, but that could change next week.
And you have reasonable certainty that the product is actually going to be delivered when you need it to be delivered.
Yeah. We were great. Our like, obviously, we, especially in the U.S., 70% of our business is the SiteOne, and just been fantastic. There was never like we have such a great relationship and open. So whenever there was issues or anything like that, we were aware right away. There may have been a few late deliveries, but it wasn't much at all. And actually, we were really, really lucky because we had already pre-bought a lot of our fertilizer before all the fertilizer went up, because I was looking at the marketplace and we were having discussions 6 months, 7 months in advance, and we could see some of these things happening. And then we just said, let's just buy, and we're going to tell everyone to get as much as they can in their warehouses. And then, damn, if the Ukraine happened and then urea prices went through the roof and we looked like geniuses. We just felt that it just made sense to kind of have the ability to know that you've got your first round sitting in the warehouse before like early, even December. Some people were ordering November, and that got that product made, and it's sitting there, and you can sleep at night knowing that you got your first or second round of fertilizer sitting in the barn and not to worry about it. So we got real lucky there. We saved our franchisees millions because we just got ahead of it. Now it's a little bit steadier, but there's still some advantages knowing, again, that you can sleep at night knowing you got products sitting there waiting to go. And whether that's taking advantage of early order programs for chemicals or taking advantage of just having that, fertilizer there, it's still an advantage knowing that you've got it. So
right, yeah, that peace of mind. I'm telling you, I get told all the time now that those relationships through COVID, if we didn't have that constant communication, if you weren't working with your suppliers, if you weren't talking to other folks out there, seeing what was going on, folks were in rough shape that didn't have those steps already in place.
Yeah.
And I hear what you're saying about things going back to normal, but I bet you still keep those relationships and those communications up, because that certainty level, we don't know what next year could bring, the year after.
That's
whatever.
it, exactly. That I'm trying minimum regardless. Before COVID and all that, you could say, all right, let's check in every quarter or whatever.
Sure.
It's I'm checking in every week with different vendors, and the summer was probably the first summer in a while where it was kind of quiet, but I wasn't too concerned about things happening. But you never know what goes on in the world. I'm looking at, I get all kinds of stuff now that I didn't look at before. So I'm looking at the green markets report. I'm looking at corn prices. I'm looking at I'm looking at what's happening in the Mideast right now. So one little thing can change everything. Like even the shoreman, strikes that are happening. Those are all things that I wouldn't have even looked at before. But now just any little thing in the marketplace can upset the whole balance of the chain supply. So So it's constantly kind of, keeping abreast of that stuff. Then, not only just what I'm reading, I'm going to the vendors. What are you hearing? What are you seeing? Where are we at? Do we have supply? If this, hurricane that went through affects the port of Tampa, where they bring a lot of urea into or ship from there, like, is that going to affect our supply chain? So yeah, there's a lot moving parts that you have to track just to, so, like when we were doing this during COVID, we were lucky because I was having these relationships and talking. So I was like, okay, where's low supply? So, and then communicating with our franchisees that, there's a low supply in this, get what you can, ensure you've got enough to get through your rounds and not just be one round ahead, but you're ordering, 3-4 months in advance and making sure that that's there. You've got it ordered and they've got it in stock.
Right. And that creates a stable environment for your supplier as well. So then that helps the relationship work together.
Exactly. And we're very, very particular. And that's one of the biggest things that we do is budgeting and sitting with our franchisees and working on budgets and knowing exactly where their cash flow is, when they need to put money out. And we've got great relationships, obviously, with our vendors like yourselves on, terms or prepayment, things like that. Our franchisees are really healthy. They got a lot of cash in the bank. So we could take advantage of some points if we can. If we can buy it and have it, and save some money on it, then that's an advantage for us. For some, it's an advantage of, hey, I can buy it and have, some terms on it and go out and service the people, get paid for it, and then pay for the product. So that's the nice thing is these great relationships with our vendors to help us go out and do what we do. And that's, keep customers' lawns green and keep mosquitoes away and things like that. So it's been interesting to say the least, but it's fun. I enjoy it. And it's about relationship building too, right? Which is, a big part of it. And there's a lot of good people in this industry. So it's nice to go out, come to events like this here and hang out with not only my vendors, but my friends. So it's good.
So what are you looking for most at this event here? We're at the Equip Expo here in Louisville, Kentucky. Is it, I'm hearing from a lot of folks that they're really interested in the new technology that's out there. Is that something that's important to Weedman as well?
I'm looking at anything and everything that would make sense for our business. There's, there's probably not a lot that I'm going to necessarily find at the Equipment Expo. I'm here. I think the biggest thing is obviously meeting with some of our vendors and having some,
whether relationships.
It's whether going out to dinner, but there's always things that we talk about and what are we going to do to, for me right now, I'm really, it's about the early order programs and getting things set for the fourth quarter.
Right.
Strategically for me, I'm concerned about things that are going on in the Mideast. I'm concerned about some of the prices raising a little bit in urea from where they were. Concerned about locking in maybe for the spring again and getting our guys to make sure that, we've got the best price right now. It's a good time to lock in for spring. Not even like, I'm not talking like for right now, for most guys have got what they need and for the fall, but right now I'm just judging the winds where they're blowing. And I think strategically, we're going to probably look at, doing some pre-ordering and making sure we get stuff again, like I said, ready to go for the springtime. I think it's not a bad idea. There's not any indication that prices may go up or down a whole lot. So again, having the product ready and available and to go in the springtime, especially in the South, it'll come sooner, like February. So having everything ready to go and that's the big thing. I just want to make sure that we're ahead of the game and meeting with our vendors so that I've looked at every possibility that I can go to our franchisee and give them the best advice possible. So when to buy and lock in and, take advantage of this or that. So, and then also, I come back and communicate with our vendors as much as possible to tell them if they're in the game or not. Like, are you right? Are you in a spot that is going to help us or service us, or is there, can you do things better? Like that's my goal is to get our franchisees the best price possible. And it's a negotiation. So it's great because it's been years of developing relationship. You guys understand it. My vendors understand it. So I'm here to help make sure that our vendors put themselves in the best position for our franchisees.
So if I'm watching the movie now of Chris Lemcke at Weedman, what's the scene that you want me to delete? No, don't put that in. What's a do-over moment? A decision you went left and you wish now you went right, or something that you wish you could take back what you said to somebody, or you wish you could, what's that do-over moment in Chris Lemke's world?
That's a good question. I don't know that I've gotten a do-over moment. It may have been like a management meeting years ago where we're all young and we probably had too much to drink and got in some trouble at a bar or something like that. But I could go into that, but I won't. I still may have my name on a wanted poster sign somewhere in Quebec. So
sure. All righty. Well, Chris, I just really want to thank you for taking this time, stopping by, giving us some insights. And you mentioned earlier you were lucky. By hearing you speak now, I don't believe, maybe a 2% luck, but it was 98% strategy. And as you had mentioned at the beginning, hard work.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. You got to have a game plan, and then you just got to work that game plan out. And sometimes it involves not a 9-to-5 job. It's when you're working for yourself. So, but at the end, there's a lot of rewards for doing that. So, and I'm not a guy to sit still. Luckily, so that's okay by me. I can keep busy is a good thing.
Excellent. Anybody you want to give a shout out here to? Your team, your family, your.
Well, I tell you, we run things a pretty tight ship. Our head office is the best. Like, we're not running from an ivory tower. Every single one of our people have come from operations pretty much. Our digital team may be the only one, but my God, they're just amazing. Like our Eric Knapp, who runs our digital department, and what they do for the franchisees, he's off the chart. So we have a pretty small, everyone's like, oh, we meant so big. Well, we literally have like 12 people that work at our head office, but man, the stuff that we get done is amazing. And it's all through my wife too, who basically oversees everything. She knows every aspect of the business because she's done every aspect of the business. So she's amazing. And our group, our marketing guys and girls, our digital guys and girls, they're just phenomenal. So
that is fantastic.
It's all about the team.
Absolutely. No, thank you, Chris.
No problem.
Enjoy the rest of the show.
Thanks for tuning in to Confessions of the Craft. Ensure you never miss an episode by subscribing to the podcast so you can be the first to hear new episodes and discover previous ones. Follow SiteOne on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn for the latest trends and industry updates.